let us see some adaptations in plants. Depending on the habitat and depending on the environmental conditions in which they occur, plants show different kinds of adaptations. Different kinds of adaptations to suit their habitat. So adaptations vary from habitat to habitat. For example, if you take aquatic plants, hydrophytes, plants living in water, aquatic plants. In aquatic plants, we have different types. For example, one category of aquatic plants are called submerged plants. Submerged plants. So these are plants that grow inside water. Grow inside water. In freshwater habitats. So they are rooted at the bottom of the water body and have a thin, long stem The leaves will be usually ribbon-like. There will be no stomata. Since they are always in water, the question of transpiration does not arise. No stomata, and they also do not show the presence of any mechanical tissues like sclerenchyma or collenchyma. Then we have a category of aquatic plants. Now, thinking of some examples for this, you heard of hydrilla, vallisneria, most familiar examples for submerged plants. Then we have free floating plants. Their roots will be inside water. Plants will be floating on the surface of water. Like, for example, pistia and eichhornia. In these plants, you will see slightly different situation. There is more of spongy parenchyma in the leaves. Intercellular spaces are prominent. Intercellular spaces are prominent, and the intercellular spaces become filled with air. So there is abundance of a type of parenchyma called aerenchyma. Aerenchyma is abundant, and the main purpose of aerenchyma being abundant is to help the plants freely float in water, buoyancy. Similarly, we have rooted but floating plants. Rooted floating plants. In the case of free floating plants, the roots are directly immersed in water, but here the roots are fixed in the soil along the border, along the bank of the water body, and the stem will be floating in water. In free floating plants, you see stomata being present only on the lower epidermis. So in these plants you will find stomata being present only on the upper epidermis, because the lower epidermis is in contact with water. Transpiration can take place only from the upper epidermis. In the rooted floating plants also, the leaves are larger, contain aerenchyma for buoyancy, and stomata are found on the upper epidermis. So these are the three kinds of situations that we see in aquatic plants. Then we have Miso Fights. Miso Fights, the land plants. Most of the plants that we see around, they are Miso Fights. In Miso Fights, we see a situation something different from the hydrophytes. Here absorption of water and nutrients will be taking place from the soil, therefore root system is well developed, and in the leaves there are two possibilities. Either it will be hypostomatic, stomata only on the lower epidermis, not on the upper epidermis, or you have amphistomatic condition, stomata being present on both the epidermal layers. Hypostomatic mostly in the case of dicot plants, amphistomatic, mostly in the case of monocot plants, and well developed vascular tissues. Then we have xerophytes. Xerophytes, plants which grow in extremely dry conditions, conditions where availability of water is very less. Therefore, in these plants we see some important adaptations: many layered epidermis. Normally epidermis of the leaf has only one layer of cells, but here many layered epidermis, and most important situation in the epidermis is the presence of sunken stomata. Sunken stomata, that is, stomata are situated in the deep lower layers of the epidermis. Apart from this, you will see in many cases leaves become modified into spines for protection as well as avoiding predation. Most familiar examples are plants called cacti.